The first half of the afternoon session will be devoted to presentation of the key insights of our CACM annual report for 2023. So I would like now to invite Chiara Vitelli, the NEMO Committee Technical Task Force co-leader. She will lead you through part of the insights, and the next part will be presented by Christoforos. Thank you, Chiara.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. It's my pleasure to be here. I try to help you to digest, as Jopka said, this CACM annual report. If I'm not able to do that, I remember you that we realized this flyer with the extreme summary of the report. So I remind you to this content. But just try. Here is the structure of the report. This has been published on the NEMO committee website in July. And here we will give just a very high-level overview of the main chapter, which have been drafted thanks to the help of all the experts which work in SIC and SDAC. I will introduce the outlook of 2023 related to the main feature of both the market SDAC and IDC, the high-level market data, the operation report, and the performance report. Then for what's next, I will leave the floor to Christoforos. So let's come to the main feature of these two pan-European integrated markets. They cover most of the countries of Europe, 27 countries for SDAC and 25 for SIC. They both support NEMO's requirement, TSO's requirement, and regulatory requirements. What's next with respect to the previous year report? We have the new system releases, both for SDAC and SIC. For SDAC, we have two system releases which went live in order to support the go-live of 15 minutes MPU and the fallback procedure in core region. Also in SIC, we have the deployment of new version of the XBIT version. And we also have to recall that in 2023 in SIC, we had the fifth waves with the go-live of EPA as third NEMO in Netherlands. Coming to some numbers, we have here the high-level market data for SDAC here. And this is the pointer, maybe? Okay. And this covers, as I said, most of the European countries with 30 TSOs and 60 operational NEMOs. The welfare per session managed by the algorithm is around 11 billion euros per session. And the traded volume were around 1,000, almost 700 terawatt-hour in 2023. The prices slightly decreased with respect to the previous year, of course, which was a record year with respect to prices, and ranges among 19 and 130 in most of the bidding zone, with the exception of the Nordic bidding zone with lower prices. Then coming to the SIC, also for the SIC, this was a kind of a record year, because in comparison with the volumes which were traded at the beginning of the market just 6 years ago, the volumes are threefold and summed up to 166 terawatt-hour in 2023, representing 150 million trades. Also here, the prices were decreasing with respect to 2022, and they range among 30 in the northern countries up to 170 in the south of Europe. Then we arrive to the operational report. This is the part of the report in which we collect all the operational data, meaning the incidents, the RSC which went live during the year, and also the corrective measure in case they are needed. We have to stress that in 2023, as well as all the other year before, no corrective measure were triggered, nor in SDAC nor in SIC. We see that the number of incidents in SDAC, let's start with SDAC here, were pretty stable with respect to the previous year. The severity, meaning the severity of the incidents were classified as 3, which means not that severe incidents because they were visible to market participants, but no message of market decoupling were sent. And this was something that was recalled before by Kiel. All these incidents were not related to MCO assets. They were related to local issues at single NEMO or single TSO level. And this is true also for the severity 1 incident we experienced in 2023, which was a local incident at NX, which led to the partial decoupling of Greece. And also in this case, the cause was a local one. Coming to the RFC, which went live, we have that many RFC went live this year. We can mention the go live of scalable complex order in Ireland, and also the introduction of profiled and linked blocks in Bulgaria, and the two system release I was referring before related to PMB and Euphonia. If we now look at the number for SITC, we see that the incidents hugely decrease with respect to the previous year. So we have very few incidents in XBID in 2023. Also in this case, as for SDAC, the majority of these incidents were related to local causes, except for the one which had severity 1, which unfortunately led to the halt of the market. This was caused to network outages, which made the primary data center crash, and the recovery didn't work properly. Then we have the RSC also for SITC, and we mention here the most important one, which is the successful go live of EPA, as I was saying before, as third NEMO in the Netherlands. Here we have the core, maybe, of the report for 2023, which is the performance monitoring report. Here we collect all the data for the algorithm, not only the performance, but also all the indicators which quantify the input and the output of the algorithm. Of course, you can find all the detail on the report itself. Here, I will just recall maybe the most important features. For SDAC, the most important indicator is the time to first solution. In the top graph here, we have the trend of the time to first solution. We had that during the year, the average time to first solution equals to 2.5 minutes for the algorithm to run. This is well below the 17 minutes which are allowed for the algorithm to run. But if we look also at the trend, we see that this performance is pretty stable during the year. And if we look at the duration curve, meaning that in the bottom of the slide, we have that the sessions are ordered by decreasing time to first solution, we see that even in the most challenging session, the time to first solution never exceeds 10 minutes. And this is also an improvement with respect to the previous year reported in the graph. Then this is even more important if we have have a look to the other numbers which characterize the report. Here we have the time starting from 2018 up to 2023. We reported the main dimension of the problem. As I mentioned at the beginning, the welfare per session was increasing in 2023, summing up to almost 11 billion euro per session. And this is achieved with the minimum time needed for the time to first solution, and in front of a complexity of the problem which was growing. We just summarized this grown complexity by the number of orders which were submitted to the algorithm, and was around 254,000 for 2023. So besides the number of this slide, the main message here is that the algorithm is able to tackle more complex problems in less time with better performance and higher welfare. Yeah, here we have the last exercise. Maybe it's not visible very well from this slide here, but the chapter, this part of the chapter managed the individual impact of products behavior of the algorithm. What we do here is to try to see how the algorithm will behave in case we delete one product and we use another product at its place. This is done for the more, let's say, demanding products. So we just converted PUN, complex order, scalable complex order, and smart blocks into more easy products, meaning stepwise curve and blocks order. What we obtain is an improvement, of course, because we are simplifying the problem, so we have smaller time to first solution for the algorithm to run. This improvement is up to 30 seconds per run. And what we have to stress about this result is that, of course, this is an improvement. This is a small improvement from some point of view, but in any case, all these improvement cannot be summed up, because by removing a product, we are always removing also the interaction among the products. So if we delete more than one product, we cannot just sum up the several improvements. Okay, so these were the main messages I was trying to give you. We have this estimation of the impact on performance we would have in case we delete one product and we convert it into different products. Of course, this is an overestimation because we delete not only that product, but also the interaction among the different products. So we cannot just sum up all these improvement in case we delete more than one product. And then another important caveat on this exercise is that, of course, we do not know how market participants will behave in case we delete one product. We made some assumption on this conversion, but we really do not know if they will behave in the same way we predicted. So these are the main caveats with respect to this exercise. Then we come to the performance monitoring report for SIDC. Also here we try to report the main feature. Here we have the time for execution of an order or a trade, and we reported the 2 percentile, the 93% and 96.5%, just to show that the system is stable. We see that this performance went quite well for all the 2023, and this thanks to the XSpeed version 3.3. So also with the significant increase of activity that I was mentioning before, the number of order and trades which were executed by the algorithm remain low. And a similar exercise with respect to what we had for SDAC. Here we reported the main numbers of SIT starting from 2018 up to 2023. And also here we can give the same message. Here we see that the rate of executed order, meaning the average number of orders which are executed by the algorithm, is increasing. This is done with a decreased time needed for the execution, and here this is measured by the 2 percentile I was showing in the previous slide. And this is done in a context of increased complexity, because also here the total number of daily submitted order increased for all the products type which are supported by the algorithm. So also here the main message is increased performance, decreased time needed for the execution, increased complexity of the problem. Now, for what next, I would leave the floor to Christoforos, which will tackle the last 2 chapters of the CACM annual report about the evolution of the market. Thank you.
Sorry, but I had to wear my glasses. No? So, outlook, and then what's next? As Chiara showed, there is always a matter of performance for us, although that we have to deal with so much interesting things with market participation, price formation, etc. We have to deliver some very neutral positions here about performance, technical figures, and that's all. But this is our job, according to the CACM at least. So performance in market that for a market that is always evolving, enlarging its scope and its functionalities. It is always a kind of evolution, and evolution measured with scalability, figures, size and performance together. And for being able to achieve this, you always have the research and development activities on the side to go for scalability and performance. So, scalability report for SDAC. I will try in all of these slides to move very simple in what we are doing, because these are the key figures and the key messages. So for SDAC, we are always considering 2 yearly scenarios. It is the Y+1 and Y+3 scenario. And in all of these cases, we are considering RFCs that are coming in the next year and RFCs that are putting additional on the year +3. We also consider market growth. We also consider whatever it is coming as optional or as a requirement or as a request from a NEMO or TSO, or what is coming as a mandatory legislation, so compliance. So what was the basic figures to be considered in this and basic parameters to be considered in these Y+1 and Y+3 scenarios? It was the introduction of 50-minute MTU by 2025 and the introduction of the Nordic flow-based in the topology. So these are 2 basic figures that was taken into consideration for both scenarios and actually drive the results of the scalability. Of course, we have considered a lot of other RFCs. You can find the list at our analytical report. Among of them, there are functionality improvements, there are inclusion of more TSO constraints or algorithmic requirements. It is also the incorporation of MCO integration plan for energy community countries, figures and growth. So a lot of parameters. Very quickly, you can find the impact of these parameters and how they are contributing in the complexity. You can see that in terms of topology, the whole parameter is being dominated by the extension of the flow based at the Nordics. There is some slight, let's say, adjustments for number of scheduling areas also for 2025 and 2027, but compared to the quadruplication of the network constraints that are being introduced by the 50-minute MTU plus the Nordic flow-based, the other topology changes are insignificant. As for the usage, as for the product range, we are considering here again the 50-minute MTU and all the considerations that we have already been published about the introduction of the 50-minute MTU, as for example, the taking out of the merit orders, the PUN, the complex orders. Also, in our scenarios, maybe you have also followed relevant publications through the MCCG or through other fora, how we have developed the scenarios for the 50-minute MTU. We are considering 80% mix of curve steps and 80% for 50-minute MTU and 20% for 60-minute period orders. So there is already included here this transformation. So you can see also an increased number of step curve orders. And also we are considering a huge increase in the introduction of the block orders, which are due to the linking of 2 different kinds of complex order types. The case where the parent of a linked family becomes a member of an exclusive group. This type of a combination will bring an explosion in the usage of the block orders, and this explosion in the usage of the block orders is being considered there. So you can find 7 times, for example, the number of orders that have been included compared to 2023. And these are the basic factors taken into consideration. So if we go back to the previous report, what we are considering as a performance indicator in scalability is always the TTFS, so the time to first solution. And there, the performance indicator is to have the 97% of the sessions run under the limit of the time to first solution, so the 30 minutes. and 100% of all the sessions are under the 180% of the time to fair solutions. So in this case here, we see that the scalability performance indicator is reached. However, we have one or two outliers. That means that even after relaxing tolerances for solution, we had some cases that didn't find a solution. This was reported to our contractor, to Inside, and they are under provision of mitigation measures to manage them. So if we go then to SID and continuous trading, so these two peculiar, let's say, graphs, and what we are doing to examine scalability in SID. In SID, there is a measure to define the performance of the system. It's always the time to transact an order and create a trade, so order time transaction. But it's also the capacity of the system to receive, to transact the orders and create the trades. So there is a specific service level agreement which finally defines this capability, and for this service level agreement we have the so-called system boundaries. So what we are examining when we are making scalability scenarios for SID is stressing the system in specific busy hours to its limit in order to see if the service level agreement requirements are being met. So there is this RTS4, the realistic test scenario 4, with different slices in its development, which are considered for increasing the performance of the system and the scalability of the system. Already, Cara presented in the performance monitor that already in January 2023, we have introduced the performance, the functionality performances and improvements, which actually decreased again the time to create the time to order transaction. And now we are moving on and working on the RTS4 slice B, which currently shows that we have to extend the scalability system boundaries from 10 million order transaction and 600,000 trades per day to double them and make them 20 million order transaction and 1.5 million trades. So this is also being depicted here in the next figure with the triangle, where in the center of the triangle, in the middle, we have the base scenario for 2023. Then we take different growth rates, and we also apply the relevant factor between order submission, order transaction, and trade, and we always see how the system performs inside the boundaries of the SLA. So the yellow triangle in the middle is one theoretical assumption of how the system is going to behave. And the red line, it is the current SLA. So if we apply the stress scenario for the growth rates, we see that for 2027, we will need to double the SLA, the system boundaries. So this is ongoing work. We need almost, let's say, 18 plus something months to implement improvements for that kind of systems, but this is already work ongoing, and as always, this system will be also scalable and will perform under the specific functionality requirements. About scalability for IDA, this is something that we are performing first time. Of course, there is also requirement for system scalability for IDA. Here, and due to the fact that we are lacking of historical data, what we are doing, we are taking data from stack, okay, so experience of data of stack, and we are creating 2 batches of scenarios, of 3 scenarios, so 6 scenarios in total, where the first batch assumes that we have the same topology as the SID IDAS go live in June, and the other one assumes that we will have the 2025 topology plus the 15-minute MTU go live. So these are two batches of two scenarios with increased, with different product usage ranges and growth factors, 125, 50%, and 5%. And if we have a look there, it is all the scenarios inside the limits of the scalability boundaries. And we, even for the scenario 4, which was the most, let's say, straightforward scenario, if we solve this scenario with a Euphemia 11.3 and not with Euphemia 11.2, that it was the version that we have conducted these scenarios, we see that even in this case, we have lower execution times, again, inside the relevant limits. So, and how we're doing on this, in order to perform all of this scalability and include all of these functionalities, we are doing, you already know, continuous R&D and report, so and development. Sorry. So since the beginning, since 2019, we have implemented the so-called Euphemia Lab, which is running to incorporate all of these research and development activities. Euphemia Lab is always running with iterations. So we had iteration 9 and iteration 10. And you can see here that the most of the activities were consumed for the implementation of the 15-minute MTU in both iterations. Also for the implementation of general improvements coming from RFCs requested either by the regulation or by the NEMOs and the TSOs. And also there were significant improvements in hardware. You may already heard that this is now we're moving to the era of distributed computing with the coming of the 15-minute MTU. We had to upgrade it also, all of this infrastructure. So a lot of activities in R&D also this year for this. The future plans for R&D, we can divide them in two terms, short-term to mid-term, and there we have technology updates and code improvements that always target in performance and efficiency. We will have also to fine-tune the 15-minute MTU implementation to do what scalability enhancements we can make during 2025, gaining also experience from the implementation of the 15-minute MTU during 2005. Then we have core advancements for hybrid coupling simulations, and also R&D that probably has to be conducted for the MCO and NENC integration plan. And of course, we already heard about optimization and what is coming after the public consultation on algorithm methodology. We have already provisioned a study, a conceptual study on the market design impacts for optimization, and we are progressing there with work in cooperation with the TSOs. So about the mid to long term, of course, we have the R&D for supporting storage orders. We have all this R&D that will require to incorporate more requirements coming from transition system, and especially for high voltage DC links, and continue something that started the previous year but is also under a little bit of suspension in works. For example, the offshore bidding zones for wind parks. And depending on the schedule and the expected R&D results for the co-optimization, we will see in very soon what the algo methodology will contain about this. We will have to move on with R&D for the algorithmic implementation of the co-optimization for energy and balancing products in single day-ahead coupling, and possibly the industrialization if we have proof of performance. So about the SEED, and this is a final slide. The focus in 2023 was mainly due to the incorporations of the SEED functionalities and extensions for the intraday auctions, and also some R&D for the flow-based allocation in continuous trading, which covered, these two activities covered almost 80% of the R&D budget. So what we have done there for IDAS, as I said, functional and non-functional testing, both for Euphemia, XBIT, capacity module, PMB, and CIP. These are the infrastructure that it is being involved in this IDAS. So IDAS not just a simple project. You see how many systems are being quietly involved and tested and developed. Of course, the cross-product matching is already incorporated in Euphemia, so we don't have to invent it for IDAS, but we have to apply it in the future, and also any other improvements for future that is going to be applied due to the incorporation or the introduction of the 15-minute MTU in IDAS. For continuous trading, as we said, we have already implemented the RTS4/A, so the work now to be done is for delivering the slice B, and also due to the incorporation of the energy community countries in the future, the so-called /C. For the fault-based, for the intraday continuous trading, the research results for 2023 showed at least that the minimum viable product design and R&D had very adverse effects and the performance of the continuous trading algorithm. So now we are trying to find mitigation measures in order to be able to enforce, or to apply flow-based in continuous trading. But this will be, again, with a different type of assessments in variations of the minimum viable product or any other alternative. For the cross-product matching for the continuous trading, this is on hold. Again, due to the minimum viable product for the cross-product matching, and we are also awaiting possible feedback and introduction from the NRAs and recommendations, and also the losses for the continuous trading. This is also an activity put on hold. Actually, losses now are only being handled through the IDAS, where losses is already incorporated as a Euphemia functionality. And prior saying thank you for your attention, I just want to mention that every year the CACM annual report of the NEMOs is a huge, let's say, effort which is coming in cooperation from NEMOs and the TSOs. So technical task force is always presenting the results or presenting the report, but the actual work is going down for all our work groups colleagues. So SDAC MSD and DOA Algo Working Group, so maybe you have heard them or not, but they are colleagues. We are contributing very valuably and every year on this report. So a very big thanks to all of these colleagues. Thank you. Don't know if we're going to take any questions.
Yeah, if there are questions from the audience, yeah, I can already see two. Maybe I will follow the proximity order. Cosimo, if you don't mind.
Hello, thank you. Micha Pregal, USCA. So, Christoforos, you mentioned the R&D in their head. And there are mentioned also energy community countries or bidding zones. So, does it mean that today you cannot process the geographical extension yet? And if that's correct, when the systems will be ready to fully support energy community? And second question, you mentioned 15 minutes. So, of course, any new member will come after 15 minutes is in production. So is there any option that newcomers are still on 60 minutes, or there is an absolute, let's say, prerequisite to move to 15 minutes? Thank you.
Well, about the incorporation of the energy community countries, as I can understand, at least the Euphemia and PMB, at least for single day-ahead coupling, they already contain the functionalities that they are required to couple energy community signatory party countries. So our only concern is the case of data that they are provided. So in our simulations, of course, we took into consideration data coming from the TSOs for the networks of the energy community countries, but the growth or the usage of products is not there. because not all of these countries are operating relevant markets. So what we are doing there is we are trying to simulate a product usage range that, depending on the size of the country in terms of energy consumption, could be somehow similar with some country already participating in single day-ahead coupling in Europe, and of course with some scaling there. So we don't consider that it's going to be requested more development and research for this. Of course, some sizing in the systems could be there, and more reliable results will be there when we will have the full set of data, let's say, available to perform the actual testing on this. There is already testing running, especially for this case. Okay, so it is the so-called MCO integration plan results. But as at least the results showing here, the algorithm is always between the limits, even with the incorporation of the energy community countries. As for the second question, if this is going to be with 60 minutes or 30 minutes, I don't know. This is something that I cannot predict. Okay.
Thank you, and we have one more question.
Yeah. Indeed, sorry, but more than a question, it is a comment. I remind last year when we presented the similar picture on the scalability report, making the first assumption on 15 minutes, it looked a bit scary. Now it is perfectly supporting the go-live. Then we will see what will be the reality. But this is a proof of the depth and the effectiveness of the R&D performed by NEMOs and TSOs together, which is secure in operation. And this is going together with that nice picture you show, where time to first solution is continuously decreasing, despite the size of the market is continually increasing, and you showed for simplicity the metric of number of orders, but the complexity of orders behind the number was not shown, and this is massive change. So this is really something of which we should be really proud and aware of. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you for the comment, and we have one more question.
Yeah, thank you, Christophilus. Very, very interesting. As I mentioned in the panel, I'm very preoccupied with intraday, of course, development. I wasn't able to fully understand from your presentation whether you see that the scalability of the platform, SIDC platform, is with the steps of 10 and 20, and the timeline for those steps is sufficient with the growth we expect, or if you have any concerns there, I didn't catch it. If so, what are we as an NEMO committee doing in terms of, we have a service provider, we are dependent on a service provider who is enabling it for us to some extent. What do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, so it is obvious that intraday market gains and continuous trading gains more and more popularity. I could say popularity, but it is at least it is a need. Okay, so to market participants to go and create new positions or correct positions in the intraday continuous trading. So how the system is working? The system is placing some system boundaries in terms of orders, transactions, and trades, which are relevant to the SLA. But the technical capability of the system is over this already. So these are only concerned with the SLA, and the SLA is the service level agreement bound by the contractor. We're already above this with the threshold of the system. So that means that we have always a transient period when we can cover already with the capacity of the existing system the growth. But the scalability is showing that after 2 years, we are already reaching the limits, so we need to invest again on extending the scalability, the capacity of the system in order to be able to accept 2 million transactions, order transactions per day, and 1.2 million trades per day. So it's already mentioned from a lot of parties that month by month or year by year, the trades are moving forward and doubling on size. We are always doing our best. There's always time needed for the system to be for the functionalities to be drawn, okay, for the procurement to be forwarded, for the budget to be decided. Okay, this is not a technical task force function, but I'm saying that we are always in time when we are coming to this requirement. There is a procedure to follow, but I think that we will succeed again to have the proper system boundaries in time and not have any scalability problems.
Maybe I didn't give it. I had actually the same question because it looks like we're playing catch up, right? So if it takes 18 months and we're doubling, but the market is doubling as well every year, and it takes 18 months, then it seems like we're not going to make it for the next growth. Or do I see that incorrectly?
This is something that is not happening today. This is something that it is provisioned by the scalability and the stress test to happen after 1 year. Okay, so we still have time to cope with this.
I will read the report.
Any other question? Maybe something for the first part?
Okay, if there
Okay,
are no
thank you.
questions, thank you, Christoforos, thank you, Chiara.